You wake up one day and realize the truth. Every fear you have, someone planted it. Every need gnawing at your chest, someone benefits from it. You've been engineered to be dependent, programmed to seek approval, conditioned to tremble at shadows that don't even exist. But here's what they never told you. The moment you stop fearing and stop needing is the moment you become dangerous. Not to others, to the system that requires your weakness to function. Machiavelli understood this 5 centuries ago. Freedom isn't a right. It's a state of mind fortified by ruthless self-sufficiency. Most men die having never tasted it. They live as puppets, strings pulled by ego, validation, and the desperate craving to belong. They chase women who drain them. They bow to bosses who exploit them. They fear opinions of people who don't even know their names. And they call this living. But you're different. You sensed something was wrong. That's why you're here. You're about to cut every single string. You're about to become the man who kneels to no one and flinches at nothing. Comment below, I fear nothing. Let me know you're ready for what comes next. Number 2, the disease of dependency. Let's talk about the disease killing most men. Dependency. You think you're independent because you pay your own bills and drive your own car. But look closer. You're still checking your phone every 5 minutes hoping someone noticed you. You're still reshaping your opinions based on who's in the room. You're still performing for an invisible audience that doesn't care if you live or die. That's not independence. That's slavery with better lighting. Machiavelli saw this weakness everywhere. Men who claimed power but couldn't survive a day without validation. Leaders who crumbled the moment the crowd turned against them. Warriors who won battles but lost themselves chasing the approval of women who'd forget them in a month. The truth is brutal. Every dependency you have is a chain. Every person whose opinion controls your mood is your master. Every fear that stops you from acting is a prison you built with your own hands. And the sickest part? You defend these chains. You call dependency love. You call fear being realistic. You call weakness having a heart. You've been taught that needing others makes you human. But Machiavelli teaches the opposite. Needing others makes you controllable. And controllable men are never free. They're tools, resources. Pawns moved around a board by people who learned to stop needing long ago. You want to know the difference between a free man and a slave? The free man can walk away from anything, his woman, his job, his reputation, his entire life. Not because he doesn't value these things, but because his peace doesn't depend on keeping them. Comment below, I need no one. Because until you believe that with every fiber of your being, you're still in chains. Number 3, the architecture of fear. Fear is the greatest weapon ever used against you. And the most brilliant part, you wield it against yourself. Every single day, you fear rejection, so you never speak your truth. You fear failure, so you never attempt greatness. You fear loneliness, so you tolerate people who poison you. You fear judgment, so you shrink yourself into something acceptable, something digestible, something safe. And in doing so, you become nothing. Machiavelli observed that men are controlled more by what they fear than by what they desire. Give a man everything he wants, and he'll still be paralyzed by the thought of losing it. This is why fear is the preferred tool of manipulation. Your parents used it, your teachers used it, your government uses it, your relationships use it, even you use it against yourself. But here's the secret they don't want you to know. Most of your fears are completely fabricated. They're not based on reality. They're based on stories you were told, experiences you misinterpreted, and outcomes you imagined, but never actually lived. You fear approaching that woman, but the worst she can do is say no. You fear starting that business, but the worst that happens is you learn what doesn't work. You fear cutting off toxic people, but the worst outcome is temporary loneliness before you build something better. The actual consequences? Minimal. The imagined consequences? Catastrophic. That gap between reality and imagination is where you've been living your entire life, and it's a prison. Machiavelli would tell you this: a man who acts despite fear is brave, but a man who eliminates fear entirely is unstoppable, because courage is still reacting to fear. True power is operating in a state where fear doesn't even register, where you've examined every worst-case scenario, accepted it, and moved forward anyway, where loss doesn't scare you because you've already internalized that everything is temporary, where you've become so self-sufficient that the world has nothing left to threaten you with. That's freedom. Comment: fear is my teacher. Let those words settle into your bones. Number 4, the illusion of need. Now, let's destroy the second chain, need. You've been conditioned to believe that needing others is natural, healthy, human. They tell you that isolation is dangerous, that independence is arrogance, that self-sufficiency is cold. But let me ask you something. Who benefits when you need? Not you. The person you need controls you. The system you depend on owns you. The validation you crave enslaves you. Machiavelli watched kingdoms fall because kings needed the love of their people. He saw empires crumble because emperors needed the loyalty of their generals. He witnessed men of power reduced to beggars because they built their entire identity on someone else's presence. And what did he conclude? That need is the most dangerous vulnerability a man can have. Because people leave. Circumstances change. Empires collapse. And if you built yourself on the foundation of needing anything external, you collapse with them. Look at your own life. How many times have you been destroyed because someone you needed walked away? How many times have you compromised your values because you needed approval? How many times have you stayed in situations that degraded you because you needed the comfort of the familiar? Every time you say, "I need this job," you give your boss permission to exploit you. Every time you say, "I need this person," you give them permission to disrespect you. Every time you say, "I need this outcome," you give fate permission to break you. But here's where it gets interesting. The moment you transform need into preference, everything changes. You don't need that relationship. You prefer it while it serves mutual growth. You don't need that career. You prefer it while it aligns with your vision. You don't need external validation. You prefer to build internal strength that makes validation irrelevant. This isn't about becoming heartless. This is about becoming unbreakable. Machiavelli never said, "Don't love." He said, "Don't need." Don't build dependencies that turn you into a hostage. Love from a position of strength, not desperation. Choose from abundance, not scarcity. Engage from freedom, not fear of being alone. Because a man who needs nothing can appreciate everything, but a man who needs everything appreciates nothing and loses himself in the process. Comment: I choose, I don't need. That distinction will change your entire life. Number 5, the ruthless detachment. Here's where most men fail. They understand the philosophy. They nod along. They agree that fear and need are chains. But when it's time to actually detach, they can't do it. Because detachment requires something most people don't have. Ruthlessness toward yourself. Not toward others. Toward yourself. You have to be willing to cut off parts of your life that feel essential. You have to amputate relationships that once defined you. You have to walk away from identities you spent years building. And that takes a level of internal violence most men will never possess. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He said it's better to be feared than loved because love is fickle, but fear is constant. But here's the deeper truth he was pointing to. It's better to be self-contained than dependent because dependency makes you predictable, controllable, and ultimately destroyable. Think about the people who have power over you right now. Your girlfriend who knows one sentence can ruin your week. Your boss who knows you can't afford to quit. Your friends who know exactly which insecurities to poke when they want to diminish you. They have this power because you gave it to them. You made yourself need their approval. You made yourself fear their absence. And now you're trapped. But detachment is the key that unlocks every cage. When you genuinely stop needing her validation, she either rises to meet your standard, or she reveals she was never worth your energy. When you stop fearing your boss's opinion, you either negotiate from power or you discover better opportunities were waiting all along. When you stop performing for friends who drain you, they either become real or they disappear, clearing space for people who actually add value. This is the test. Can you sit in silence with yourself and feel complete? Can you walk away from everything familiar and feel excitement instead of terror? Can you lose what you thought you needed and discover you're actually stronger without it? Most men can't pass this test. They'd rather live in comfortable chains than uncomfortable freedom. They'd rather be needed and controlled than independent and alone. They'd rather have the illusion of connection than the reality of self-sufficiency. But you're not most men. You're here because something in you knows the truth. That real power comes from detachment. That real freedom comes from needing nothing. That real strength comes from being able to walk away from anything without looking back. Machiavelli called this virtue the ability to act with cold precision regardless of emotional attachment, the capacity to make decisions based on logic, not longing, the strength to choose what serves your vision over what comforts your ego. Comment: detachment is my power. Because once you master this, nothing can touch you. Number 6. The Forge of Solitude. Let me tell you about the place where real men are made. Solitude, not loneliness. Solitude. There's a difference, and if you don't understand it, you'll spend your entire life running from the one thing that could save you. Loneliness is the pain of feeling empty in isolation. Solitude is the power of feeling complete in it. Most men are terrified of being alone because they've never built anything inside themselves worth visiting. Their internal world is a wasteland, no thoughts worth thinking, no dreams worth pursuing, no discipline worth practicing. So they fill the void with noise. Relationships that go nowhere, friendships that demand everything and offer nothing, distractions that numb them just enough to avoid facing the truth that they're empty, and they stay empty because they never spend time in the forge. Machiavelli spent months in exile, stripped of power, abandoned by allies, surrounded by nothing but his books and his thoughts. And in that solitude, he wrote The Prince, the most influential book on power ever created. He didn't write it in the comfort of the palace. He wrote it in isolation, where there was no one to impress, no one to perform for, no one to dilute his vision with their opinions. That's what solitude does. It removes all the external noise so you can finally hear your own voice. It strips away all the masks so you can see who you actually are beneath the performance. It eliminates all the dependencies so you can build yourself from the ground up, brick by brick, into something unshakable. But here's what most people miss. Solitude isn't just about being physically alone. It's about mental sovereignty. You can be surrounded by people and still be in solitude if your mind belongs to you. You can be in a relationship and still maintain solitude if you don't lose yourself in the other person. You can have friends and still practice solitude if you don't need their constant validation to feel whole. The question is, can you sit with yourself for hours without distraction and feel peace? Can you go days without external validation and still feel confident? Can you lose everyone and still know exactly who you are and where you're going? If the answer is no, you're not free yet. You're still dependent on the outside world to tell you you're okay. You're still using other people as mirrors because you're too afraid to look directly at yourself. And that makes you weak. Machiavelli would tell you this: the man who cannot bear his own company is a slave to everyone else's. Because if you need constant external stimulation to feel alive, you're controllable. If you need constant companionship to feel valuable, you're manipulable. If you need constant validation to feel worthy, you're destroyable. But the man who has mastered solitude, he's untouchable. He doesn't need the world to confirm his worth because he's built it internally. He doesn't fear abandonment because he's already complete. He doesn't chase connection because he's the source of his own fulfillment. This is the forge. This is where you burn away everything weak, everything needy, everything fearful, and what emerges is pure, self-sufficient, unbreakable. Comment: solitude forged me. Let the world know you've been through the fire and came out stronger. Number 7. The death of the old self. You can't become the man who fears nothing and needs no one while still clinging to who you used to be. That version of you has to die. And I don't mean symbolically. I mean you have to actively kill him. Every habit that kept you weak, every belief that kept you small, every identity that kept you dependent. You have to take all of it and burn it to the ground. No mercy, no nostalgia, no, but this is who I've always been. Because who you've always been is exactly why you're not where you want to be. Machiavelli witnessed this transformation in the greatest leaders of history. They didn't evolve gradually. They died and were reborn. Caesar crossed the Rubicon and killed the man who sought approval from the Senate. Alexander left Macedonia and killed the prince who needed his father's shadow. Marcus Aurelius took the throne and killed the philosopher who preferred books to battlefields. Each of them faced a moment where they had to choose between comfort and greatness, between the familiar and the necessary, between who they were and who they needed to become. And they chose death, the death of everything that no longer served their vision. But here's what separates them from the masses. They didn't wait for circumstances to force the transformation. They initiated it. They looked at themselves with brutal honesty and said, "This version of me is insufficient. He has to go." That's the level of ruthlessness required. You have to become your own executioner. Look at the man you are right now, the one who checks his phone hoping for validation, the one who adjusts his behavior based on who's watching, the one who stays silent when he should speak because he fears judgment, the one who tolerates disrespect because he fears loneliness, the one who dreams small because he fears failure. That man has to die, not tomorrow, not eventually, today, right now. You kill him by starving everything that keeps him alive. Stop feeding the addiction to approval. Stop nurturing the need for external validation. Stop protecting the fears that keep you paralyzed. Stop defending the limitations you've accepted as identity. Every time you feel the urge to seek validation, kill it. Every time you feel the impulse to play small, kill it. Every time you feel the temptation to need someone's presence to feel whole, kill it. This is violent work. It's supposed to be, because transformation isn't a gentle process. It's destruction followed by reconstruction. Machiavelli knew that the greatest obstacle to power isn't external enemies. It's the old version of yourself that refuses to let go. The part of you that wants to stay comfortable. The part that craves the familiar. The part that whispers, maybe you're not meant for this. Maybe you should just accept who you are. That voice is poison, and the only antidote is decisive action. You don't negotiate with the old self. You don't gradually phase him out. You cut him off completely and immediately. Cold turkey. No contact with the people who knew the old you and expect you to stay that way. No return to the habits that defined the old you. No compromise with the beliefs that limited the old you. You become unrecognizable, and you do it on purpose. Comment, "The old me is dead." Declare it publicly. Make it real. Number 8. The price of absolute freedom. Let's be brutally honest about what you're choosing. This path leads to freedom, yes. But freedom has a price most men aren't willing to pay. You will be misunderstood. You will be called cold. You will be labeled arrogant, detached, emotionless. People who used to control you through guilt will call you selfish. People who used to manipulate you through fear will call you reckless. People who built their identity on being needed by you will call you heartless. And here's the part that separates the committed from the curious. You have to be okay with that. Because the moment you start defending yourself, explaining yourself, or trying to make them understand, you've already lost. You've given them power again. You've made their opinion matter. You've allowed their judgment to influence your direction. And that's the very dependency you're trying to destroy. Machiavelli faced this directly. When he wrote The Prince, he was vilified. They called him evil. They said he had no morality. They accused him of teaching tyranny. And what did he do? Nothing. He didn't defend himself. He didn't soften his message. He didn't apologize for speaking truth that made people uncomfortable. He understood something profound. The price of speaking truth is being hated by people who live in comfortable lies. The price of independence is being rejected by people who profit from your dependence. The price of fearlessness is being feared by people who control through fear. You want to know what real freedom costs? It costs your reputation among people who don't matter. It costs relationships built on your willingness to be small. It costs the comfort of being liked by everyone. It costs the security of fitting in. It costs the warmth of belonging to groups that require you to betray yourself to maintain membership. And most men look at that price and say, "Too expensive, I'll just stay where I am." They choose the prison because it's familiar. They choose the chains because at least people visit them there. They choose dependency because loneliness at the top feels worse than companionship at the bottom. But you need to understand something that Machiavelli spent his entire life proving. The loneliness at the top is temporary. The weakness at the bottom is permanent. When you first choose freedom, yes, you'll be alone. The people who knew the old you won't recognize the new you. The relationships built on your neediness will collapse when you stop being needy. The dynamics based on your fear will dissolve when you stop being afraid. And there will be a period, maybe months, maybe longer, where you stand alone, where your phone goes silent, where invitations stop coming, where you question if you made the right choice. This is the test. The universe is asking, did you mean it? Are you actually committed to freedom? Or were you just romanticizing the idea? Because if you break here, if you go back to seeking approval, if you return to needing validation, you'll be exactly where you started, except now, with the added shame of knowing you tried to be free and couldn't handle it. But if you stand firm, something miraculous happens. You discover that you don't need what you thought you needed. You realize that solitude isn't loneliness when you've built something worth being alone with. You understand that being misunderstood by the masses means being clearly seen by the few who matter. Comment, I pay the price. Because freedom isn't free, but slavery costs everything. Number 9, the emergence of the untouchable. And then, after the fire, after the death, after the isolation, something changes. You look in the mirror one day and you don't recognize the man staring back. Not because you've lost yourself, because you finally found yourself. The noise in your head is gone. The desperate need for validation has evaporated. The fear that used to paralyze you now feels like a distant memory, something that happened to someone else in another lifetime. You've become untouchable, not because nothing can hurt you, but because you've removed every external thing that had the power to destroy you. You don't fear loss because you've internalized that everything is temporary. You don't need approval because you've built unshakable self-respect. You don't chase connection because you've become complete in yourself. And the world notices. People sense it immediately. There's a different energy around you now. You walk into rooms differently. You speak differently. You carry yourself with a quiet certainty that makes others uncomfortable because they can't locate your weakness. They can't find the button to push. They can't discover the leverage point to control you. And it drives them insane. Women who used to ignore you suddenly become interested because you stopped seeking their validation. Employers who used to undervalue you suddenly recognize your worth because you're no longer desperate to keep the job. Friends who used to take you for granted suddenly want your time because you stopped being available on demand. This is the paradox Machiavelli understood perfectly. The less you need from the world, the more the world offers you. The less you fear losing things, the more things come to you. The more detached you become, the more attractive you are to everything worth having. But here's the critical part. You don't return to needing. You don't let success make you soft again. You don't let abundance make you dependent again. You don't let new relationships rebuild the old chains. Because the moment you do, you're back in the prison. You maintain the discipline that freed you. You protect the solitude that forged you. You defend the detachment that made you powerful. You've become the architect of your own life now. You don't react to circumstances. You create them. You don't respond to other people's agendas. You set your own. You don't wait for permission or validation or the perfect moment. You decide and you move. And when obstacles appear, you don't see problems. You see information. When people disappoint you, you don't see betrayal. You see clarity. When plans fail, you don't see defeat. You see redirection. This is what Machiavelli called virtù, the ability to adapt to fortune without being controlled by it, the capacity to act decisively in uncertainty, the strength to remain unmoved while everything around you crumbles. You've built something that external circumstances can't touch, a foundation so solid that earthquakes don't shake it, an identity so strong that criticism doesn't dent it, a purpose so clear that distractions don't derail it. You are the man who fears nothing because you've faced everything. You are the man who needs no one because you've become everything. You are the man who kneels to nothing because you've mastered yourself. And that makes you the most dangerous man in any room. Not because you seek to harm others, but because you cannot be harmed. Comment, I am untouchable. Let that truth resonate through every cell in your body. Number 10, the final declaration. So here we stand at the end. But this isn't really an ending, it's a beginning. The beginning of the rest of your life as a man who has chosen absolute freedom over comfortable slavery. You now understand what Machiavelli knew 500 years ago. That fear is a choice. That need is a weakness. That dependency is a prison you build with your own hands. And that the key to destroying all of it is ruthless self-mastery. The world will test you. People will try to pull you back. Your own mind will whisper doubts. But you've been given the blueprint. Fear nothing. Need no one. Depend on yourself alone. This is Machiavelli's path to freedom. Not a philosophy to admire from a distance, but a way of life to embody completely. Comment one final time. I am free. Make it your declaration to the universe. And if this message awakened something in you, if you're ready to walk this path, hit that like button, subscribe to Machiavellian Mind, turn on notifications, because this is only the beginning of your transformation. The question is, are you ready to become untouchable?